Hey, so you have been working now with your product for quite some time and now it's actually ready to be launched. This is probably one of the most exciting times to be a product person. But what is required to actually do a proper product launch? Let's go into it. So first of all, let's define what product launch is. Product launch is basically the moment that you are able to have your product ready and actually get into the market. And this means obviously that you have to have your whole organization, not just the product, ready to get this operation or this process done. So basically this is a process that involves many stakeholders in the company. So not just product and product development specific personnel, but also people that are working in other areas like sales, customer service, marketing, documentation, and so on. And as much as this is a very exciting moment, it can be very overwhelming for people if they have not done it in the past. And this is quite a big process to actually get ready. So in this video today, I want to talk about what the product launch is and what are the different processes that you have to take into account to actually make a successful product launch. But before we go into it, let me know in the comments below that have you actually driven yourself a product launch? Have you done the whole go-to-market strategy together with somebody else? Maybe not just on your own. Just let me know in the comments below. So first of all, I would like to make a difference between a soft launch and a public launch. Soft launch is usually what you do when you are working more in the early stages of the product, where you want to actually test if the product is actually what the people or the users need. So here you're actually trying more to validate your offering, your actual product, and if it actually solves the problems that the customers have. This is what many times is known as alpha testing, beta testing, working with MVPs, minimal viable products. And basically what you are going to do here is that you don't do a public release. Typically you are going to have a limited release to certain people. Depends on the product, it's going to be a wider or a smaller audience. And you are going to provide them the product plus anything that they need to start using that product, obviously. And you want to make sure that that first experience is as good as possible. Soft launches are actually quite common in many companies, especially companies that are doing SaaS. So for example, Netflix, if I'm correct, typically releases first in Canada. So basically that's a soft launch of any of the features that they are building. They test it there, they make sure that it's working fine. And if it's working fine, then it's released to the rest of the public. That's also known as A/B testing. And yes, as part of this soft launch, you're going to be doing A/B testing. There's also the public launch. And the public launch is more what I want to cover in this video. The public launch is when you want to organize and align your whole business and organization that is working on a specific product and make the public launch to the public. So everybody is ready to actually start selling, start supporting, and the users start using your product. So one of the best frameworks out there to do a product launch is the Marketing Mix by Jerome McCarthy. If I'm correct, this framework was proposed sometime in the 60s. And typically this framework is known as the 4 Ps or the 7 Ps, depends on how do you consider it. I will go through all of them and explain which one of them are. But basically what you want to do is that you want to make sure that you have everything that you need to do for a product launch ready for that launch. And this means that the work has to happen prior to the launch, not in the moment that you want to start launching and not in the moment that you finish developing your product. I'm not going to touch customer journey here, but customer journey is obviously very related to the marketing mix and the 4 Ps and the 7 Ps because it is going to describe what is that adoption or what is that journey that the customer has from getting to know that there is a product out there to actually considering, purchasing, adopting it, and using it. So first, let's go through the 4 Ps framework. The first P means product. Basically, the product, if you have been following this channel, you probably are aware what it is, but basically what you have is that you have a solution for a specific problem that a certain type of customers have. That's what your product is going to do in a nutshell. And of course, you want to make with this product the biggest impact on the business, meaning that you want to sell it, especially if you're in a for-profit company, which probably most of us are. How do you do this? Well, basically your product is going to have a value proposition, is going to address some problem or a need that the customer have, and they're going to provide value to them by solving that problem or need. It depends on if it's a B2B product or if it's a B2C product. It's going to solve more like problems or actually it's going to maybe entertain or solve certain needs of the consumers. And basically because the customers are getting value from your product, they're willing to pay for that value that you're creating And that's how you're generating and creating a business. The next P is going to be the price. The price is going to be obviously the price of the product that you are selling and how you're going to price it to your customers. Here there are going to be many things that you have to take into consideration. Things as, is your product a B2B product or is it your B2C product? What kind of pricing do they have? Usually B2B products tend to be more expensive than B2C products. It depends on how you're selling your product. It's also going to be a difference. For example, if you have to have sales organizations, so people that actually go and discuss with the potential customer and actually sell the product, those tend to be longer cycles. Products tend to have higher prices. If you are selling your product online, like for example, Notion or anything that you might buy in Amazon, in those cases, some of those products can be a lower pricing because there is no salesman involved. And that means that there is less lengthy process to actually get the sales done. But then, of course, there's going to be many different aspects that are going to affect your product price. Things like, for example, your brand, things about the quality of your product or the service that you're providing. Actually, the problem, how important is the problem that you're solving, how difficult it is. Usually the more difficult that is to solve your problem, the more price is going to be the product or the service that you are purchasing. And then, of course, there's going to be lots of ways of doing pricing. As you can see nowadays, there's lots of ways of actually doing like buying a license, like a permanent license, or like buying an actual object. Then you usually just own it. But nowadays, there's a lot of subscription models out there. And I would include those ones also within the pricing because those are basically the schemes that you want to have define and understand how you are going to be pricing your products to your customers. Many software products out there, if they don't support subscription at this point, many times what they do is that they sell you a license, but then they sell you a recurring maintenance agreement. So basically, if you just buy the license, yes, you can use the product, but you don't have access to, for example, support channels or trainings or whatnot. In order to get that support, you need to buy a maintenance agreement. So that's also something that you will have to take into account. How are you going to sell it? What is going to be the pricing? And of course, there's going to be many differences between products that are sold online and products that are sold physically in a physical shop. The next P is going to be the place. The place is referring to where are you going to sell your product. Again, very big difference if you are selling your product like a physical product or if you are selling a digital product. If you're selling a digital product, typically you're going to sell this through some e-com or your own website where people can go and subscribe to your products. There's going to be many, many different ways, but this is something that you have to understand. You have to understand also how this is going to be accessed and used by the user, what kind of experience they are going to have when they are purchasing your products. And in some cases, you're also going to have dealerships. So there's going to be dealers or representatives or other media people that might be selling your product to the users. So dealership models are still even common among software products. So there are software products out there that are actually selling through some kind of dealer. And the dealer, usually what it does is that they do the sales process, they do the maintenance, potentially they do the training, and usually they get a cut on the sales price. And then they get all the maintenance contracts or part of the subscription agreement as part of that service that they are offering to the customers. The last P in the 4 Ps is the promotion side. It's like, okay, how are users going to find out that you have an offering, that you have a product? People are not going to find out magically about your product. You actually had to reach out to them. So the best ways here that you had to do is that understand where your customers are or your potential customers are and go and talk to them in those channels. This can be that people are talking in Facebook groups. You might want to advertise in those Facebook groups. People might have, I don't know, they might be in Reddit, for example. Go and discuss in those channels or understand them better how they're behaving. You might not want to be doing your promotion necessarily there, but you understand what are their needs. You understand better what could be, for example, the messaging that you have for your product when you're doing promotion. And of course, there's going to be many different ways of doing promotion, like advertisement, like sales events, like affiliate marketing, referral marketing, many others out there that basically you can do in order to actually people to find out about your product. It might be that some people, they just go door to door knocking and telling about the product that they have as an offer. That is still promotion. So that was for the 4 Ps. And in all honesty, I typically stick only to the 4 Ps and I don't go all the way to the 7 Ps. And there is a reason that, for me at least, between the 4 Ps and the customer journey, I cover that experience of the users pretty well. And I don't think that, for me, I need the 7 Ps. Although I agree that there are good points in having the 7 Ps as a part of the process to make sure that you are going to be able to get the product to the market. So let's go through those ones now. The next P is going to be people. So here you're going to have to make sure that you have the people in place to actually get your product into the market. Of course, you could extend this that, well, you have the people also in place to actually build the product. But here you're going to have to look into, okay, do I have the people that I need to be able to sell the product? Do I have enough sales representatives? Do I have enough customer success people or support people that are going to actually be able to support the users once they start to use the product? Do I have enough people to actually write the documentation of this product? And so on. And of course, do I have all the marketing people necessary to actually do the promotion of this product? So here you want to make sure that the teams and the resources that you are going to need to build that product and to launch it to the customers, you have that ready. The next P is going to be process. Here you're going to define the way that the user actually gets the product to themselves, how they can start using the product. So how do you transfer the product from the business to the user? And this, of course, in some cases, there's no real transfer of the product, especially if you think about a subscription model, because the users don't own that product. So there it gets a little bit complicated, but basically you are transferring the product so the users can start using and getting value and benefit from that product. So for me, the process is really very, very, very closely related to the customer journey. It's defining a lot of how the process of understanding that there is an offer. Maybe that's more on the promotion side, but how do you do the delivery and how do you do the adoption of the product by the users? For me, that's very well described in a customer journey. So this is why I haven't been using this framework so much. But again, nothing wrong necessarily for this framework. It's just that I do it in a different way. And when you think about this, for example, the delivery and the adoption of the product, you can think about things like, well, I had to purchase it. Okay, great. I purchased it. How do I download the product? If it's a product that's online, if it's a software that I need to download. How do I download it? How do I install it? How do I create users? How do I create accounts for different services like customer service or support or accessing the documentation or trainings or whatnot? All that process has to be defined, has to be understood, has to be clear also for the users. And finally, there is the last P is going to be physical evidence. Physical evidence is actually all the physical, is very clearly all the physical products that you are going to have around your product in order to make it available to the user. This can be things like packaging, billing, carry bags, and stuff like that. And this is, of course, going to be very related, at least from my point of view, to products and physical products that are sold in actual physical stores. And that's a part that I have not worked that much. And this is one of the reasons why I haven't been using this part of the framework so much. Very quickly, when you want to have your product ready, there are going to be things that you have to make sure that you have passed. And there's like different checklists that you had or you could take in order to make sure that you are not skipping any of them. First of all, you had to make sure that your product has passed any kind of test, automated tests, and different type of tests within your team and also with certain customers. This can be done through alpha testing, for example. You also have to make sure that you have all the documentation ready, all the potential trainings that are going to be needed to take by the users ready. This can be trained by trainings. I don't mean necessarily very complex trainings. It can be just a minute, 1 minute, 2 minute video explaining what a new functionality, what the product actually does, and how to get value out of it as soon as possible. And of course, ideally, you want to have a plan done within the company with all the stakeholders to make sure that everybody's on time, that everybody is developing all the different promotion materials that they had to create, all the sales processes that they need to have in place. Everything has to be actually planned and make sure that everything is ready for the actual product launch. So I have seen many ways of doing product launches. So some of them have been really organized and well planned. Some of them have been quite freestyle, and so in some cases they have been quite freestyle because they are just like a product increment and not necessarily a very brand new product launch. But still, it's good to have a plan, it's good to be organized, and it's good to have a process to actually get the product ready to be launched. So how about you? How do you do product launch? Have you been using the 4Ps, the marketing mix, the 7Ps, any other process or framework? Let us know in the comments below. I will see you in the next one, and remember, stay safe.